and welcome to another Top 5 board game video. Today's topic is all about tile placement. Tile placement is a mechanic that we see in a lot of different forms in a lot of different games. Today I'm going to be talking about two major types of tile placement. The first one, which is going to be tiles that you place before the game actually starts, where you're building a map or whatever it happens to be, and the second one being a game where you actually place tiles down as you go along. I'm primarily going to be talking about the second type, because for the first type there's only so many different ways to go, and I'm going to try to be as diverse as possible, especially with that second category, because it's very easy to fill it up with things like dungeon crawlers, where all you're doing is just wandering around exploring rooms all the time. But with that, I hope that you enjoy this video, and I'm going to go ahead and get started with my number 5. At number 5, I have a really fun game that fits into the first category of tile placement, which is you put it down before the gameplay even starts. It's a really great zombie game called Zombicide. Zombicide is really fun, and the idea is that you have really large panel tiles, and you place them down in different orders, in different ways, and different orientations and all that, and it allows you to get different scenarios out of it. There's a big book that has all the different scenarios in it, and the idea is that this is a cooperative game, so each person gets a little miniature, and you get to go and you get to explore the rooms, and you kick down doors and see how many zombies are in these rooms and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun, and the tiles actually really give this a lot of serious replay value. That's the case with a lot of these games. Because of the randomness of the tiles, you get a great deal of replay value. But for Zombicide, I really like it for a somewhat odd reason that I really don't mention a lot, which is the art. And a big reason for that also is the reason why it's at number 5, it's lower on the list, is just because that's the really main reason that it's here. I easily could have put in another game similar to this, where you have tiles that are down, but then you flip up as you explore and things of that nature. So you think like Twilight Imperium and Eclipse and those kinds of things. But with Zombicide, I think it's really interesting because you have a very distinct map that you can all see, but you don't know what's going to happen around the next corner. You don't know what's going to happen in the next room. You just know that there's something there. You know that it exists. You know that there is something beyond that doorway. But the problem is, it's probably a bunch of zombies that want to eat your face. So with that, Zombicide is my number 5 tile placement game. At number 4, I have a game that I unfortunately at the present time do not actually own, but it's another cooperative game, but it fits into the second category of being able to go and actually pick tiles as you're playing through the game. The game itself is Betrayal at House on the Hill. Betrayal at House on the Hill is an amazing cooperative game, and it has one of my favorite trader mechanics of all time. I absolutely love it, and I really love the fact that a lot of the different rooms are heavily related to the scenario that you're playing, specifically that scenario. And for example, depending on what room you draw is going to dictate what scenario you end up going through and what person ends up becoming the traitor. It's a lot of fun. Again, just like with Zombicide, it has some great art to it, but I prefer the art of Zombicide. I think it's a little bit more detailed for my taste, but Betrayal at House on the Hill is just a wonderful example of how you can take that tile placing mechanic out of the really standardized idea of, you go in, you go through the dungeon and all that kind of stuff. Not that I don't enjoy those, and not that I don't have them on this list, but it's just something that's very unique. And it's, again, a lot of these games, it's all about the replay value. You get a lot more bang for the buck when you're talking about being able to redo, reshuffle, and use new and different tiles and new and different scenarios. And Betrayal at House on the Hill is just one of my favorite cooperative games, and again, my personal favorite trader mechanic of all. And I just think that all of the mechanics of the game meld very well, and I think that without that tile placing mechanic, it just would not be the same game whatsoever at all, and you would not have the same eerie feeling that you get when you play it. Overall, it's just a wonderful game and a great example of how you can use tile placement to build suspense. Betrayal at House on the Hill, my number 4. 3, I have a game that unfortunately I only recently acquired. It's a lot of fun. It's been around for a very long time, and it is called Tsuro. So for this game, it's called Tsuro, the Game of the Path. And this is a great game for several reasons. First off, it's very, very simple. Second off, it's very fast to play. And third, it plays a lot of people. You can play anywhere from 2 to 8 players on this. I haven't played with a whole lot of people, so I don't know how well it works. But either way, it's a really fun game. And this is actually a unique way of placing tiles and a unique mechanism for placing tiles. And not only that, but afterwards, what happens with them. The idea is that you've got a big bag and you pick out a tile, and it has different paths on it, different like little white paths literally carved into it. Well, carved, it's cardboard. But the idea is that you've got a large square grid and you place the tiles down, and you have a small figurine that's meant to look like stone, and it goes along whatever the path that is laying. And it's very, very interesting because you can end up ruining your opponent's strategies by placing tiles around them, by trapping them because they don't have an outlet from their tile. You can try to get yourself into the middle as best as possible. You can even accidentally ruin your own chances by giving yourself a bad tile because you thought you were going to get one thing, but you ended up getting something else. It's an amazing game. It's one of these games that is easy to learn but difficult to master, just as any game should be. But this is a wonderful example of relatively minimalist design and very, very simple rules that's easy to learn, easy to play, and not only that, but very fun to play with pretty much any age group. I played this with children a few times, and even kids tend to like it because it's something that you can grasp very, very easily. The little figures move along the path, and the whole point is that you're trying to get the best path over everybody else. Great game. Tsuro is my number 3 tile-based board game. At number 2, I have a giant game. The only reason it's giant is because I got the big box for it. That's right, it's Carcassonne. Carcassonne is a wonderful game that I really am sad that I can't talk about more than I do. I just can't come up with lists that really fit Carcassonne very easily. But it's a very, very amazing game. It's another game similar to Tsuro, where it is almost deceptively simple. And you have the nice thing about this is you can think about Tsuro as Tsuro, and then Carcassonne as like an advanced variant of Tsuro. Because in this you still have things like roads. The roads are the basic things for Tsuro, and for Carcassonne you do have achievements for like having the longest road, being on that road and claiming it, and all of that kind of stuff. You do still have those types of mechanics, but in addition to that, you've got the cities, you've got the castles, whatever you want to call them, you have the farm, you have just the giant plains areas, and not only that, but you've got all of the massive numbers of expansions that go along with it. It's absolutely incredible, and again, it breaks away from a lot of the sort of stereotypical going down exploring rooms type of thing. In this case, you are literally building a city. That's the whole point of the game, and that's what the tiles allow you to do. You are building the countryside surrounding the city or cities in addition to building the cities themselves. And it's just a very interesting thing. There's a lot of different ways to win. Anybody who has played this, you know that there is a ton of strategy behind it. And the thing is that it doesn't necessarily come down to getting really bad luck with a single tile or even several tiles. It's really all about how you play them. If you play them right, then you can still win without a doubt. But it's a great game, a wonderful example of a good way to use a tile placement mechanic. Carcassonne, my number 2. At number number 1, I have another game that unfortunately I myself do not own, but I have played it many, many times and I absolutely love it, and it is extremely stereotypical for this category. It is Descent. Descent is a wonderful, wonderful game. Now, I know that you're probably thinking, well, Danny, you have talked about The Legend of Drizzt, you have talked about Twilight Imperium, you have talked about Eclipse numerous times in numerous ways. Why Descent? I really, really prefer Descent for several different reasons. First off, I think it's a much more immersive experience than a lot of the other ones. Now, specifically comparing it to something like Legend of Drizzt. I mentioned before in my video where I talked about games that essentially make me feel like I was playing an RPG. That was the context in which I was discussing Legend of Drizzt. The thing is that in this case, I don't care about feeling like I'm playing an RPG. I'm talking about solely this tile placement mechanic, and Descent does a wonderful job of it. Now again, it is the stereotypical dungeon crawling, oh, the tiles are rooms, whoa, yay! But the thing is that Descent does it so well that it intrigues me what the next tile is going to be. Just like I was saying with Betrayal at House on the Hill, where the next tile is full of suspense. It is crazy that a game can have that effect on me, and I still think that it's ridiculous, and I kick myself every day that I do not own it myself. But it is a wonderful game. It melds a lot of different mechanics together very, very effectively, similar to Twilight Imperium, which incidentally I didn't pick for this particular list simply because it is so big. There is so much going on with Twilight Imperium that each of the individual mechanics tends to get lost. I've mentioned that several different times in a couple of my videos, but for the purposes of Descent, I really like it because you have that very fantasy-esque feel to it. You also have the idea that you are actually increasing yourself. You're going up, you're moving up in the world, and which, incidentally, the role-picking video is the one that I was thinking of, the one where roles matter, that I was talking about Legend of Drizzt. But you feel like you're advancing. You can actually save your progress to an extent, although you can argue that for any board game, because it's just like, we'll just leave it out. There, progress saved. But in the case of Descent, you don't even need to leave it out necessarily if you're really good about it. But it's just a wonderful game that can take a very long time, but it's simplified compared to Twilight Imperium, but more complex than a lot of other ones. Either way, the tile system, very, very seamlessly integrated. I absolutely love it. It creates suspense just the way that it should. And again, I know it's stereotypical, but that is what I like to see in that type of game. Incidentally, also Mage Knight was another hot contender. I could have had a whole bunch of honorable mentions, I guess, but I wanted to keep it simple, or at least a little bit more simple. But regardless, Descent, Journeys into the Dark, or Journey into the Dark, I don't remember the exact subtitle, is my #1 tile placement game. So with that, thank you so much everybody for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you don't mind too much the fact that I didn't talk about my honorable mentions, even though I mentioned a whole bunch along the way. On that note, as always, please give me your suggestions. What tile-based games do you enjoy? Why do you enjoy them? Do you think that I have no clue what I'm talking about? I'm sure that many, many of you do. Do you like the games that I picked? Do you not like them? Why and why not? Etc., etc. Whatever you want to say, however you want to say it, please put any and all thoughts into the comments below. Thank you so very much for watching this, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much again for watching my video for my top 5 tile laying board games. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and as always, please put any and all feedback in the comments below. Do you agree with my list? Disagree with my list? Did I not say your personal favorite? What do you think of this category as a whole? Anything and everything along those lines. As always, I have several of my video playlists linked up at the top of the page, so you can see more of the types of videos that I create. And if you'd like to see more of me in the future, go on ahead and click that big giant subscribe button. In addition, you can check me out on Twitter at DannyCGamingSci. With that, thank you very much again, and I will see you next time.